Hi, my name is Molly. It's very nice to meet you. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what brought you in today?
Yeah, hi Molly. My name is George. I was referred to my doctor. I It all goes back to this car accident, right? So like almost a month ago, I was driving to work like I've done a million times. I'm in the car. It's just a normal vehicle, normal day on the way to school, right? And this giant tractor trailer, he comes out of nowhere, he swipes the right side of my car, and I go right into the berm. And like I got a little bit of whiplash and like some minor bruises, and it was crazy because like I could have been killed. I absolutely could have been killed. And you know what? I got a tow truck to work, and I thought everything was fine, but I've been having these issues now where like my work's affecting me. And I just got this new job as a principal at the elementary school, and like I've taken 4 days off work, and I don't know, my doctor thinks I should be here, Molly.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. It sounds like you've been through a very huge ordeal. Um, Congratulations on your new job. That's exciting. I'm sure that we've got a lot of things to talk about. Having a new job is wonderful and exciting, but it can also be very stressful. And on top of that, you're dealing with a lot of PTSD, which is very complicated, and we will absolutely talk about that more in depth. Is it all right with you before we get started? I would like to tell you a little bit about how our organization works. And then if you've got any questions for me, you can ask them, and then we can get started a little bit more in depth.
Sure, Molly, that sounds good.
Okay, fantastic. So, our restroom and our water fountain are right by the front door. We actually passed them on the way in. And our lovely secretary, her name is Georgina, very similar to your name, actually. And she will always be available during normal business hours for scheduling appointments. If there's an emergency, feel free to contact 911. You can leave a message with us. But we might not necessarily get back to you. It will be within 24 hours, but it might not be immediate. Um, we have a confidentiality policy, which means that anything that you tell me stays between us, with a couple of exceptions. The first one being if it sounds like you might be a danger to yourself or others, that is something that I would have to bring up to authorities. If for some reason we were to get subpoenaed in a court case, that information can be pulled, and I would have to provide that to them. At any time, you can access your records, and if you choose, you can sign off to give other people permission to access your records, but that's not something that we can do without your consent. See, is there anything
Now,
else?
real quick, Molly. Yeah, so like I work, to be perfectly honest with you, I've been drinking, and I never was a big drinker, and now I'm a little worried that my drinking might be kind of an issue, and I really don't want the school to find out that I'm a drinker. Is will that happen?
That will absolutely stay between us.
Great.
The only concern I would say would be if you were to tell me that there was an incident involving alcohol in the workplace and there was harm caused to children or employees, then that would be something that I would have to discuss. But it sounds like that's not the case. Your alcohol consumption is happening in a private setting. It's not involved during work hours. So I would say that that is absolutely something that can stay confidential.
Okay, that makes me feel better. That's something that I want to figure out at some point with you. Molly, you talked about the agency, and I was kind of wondering, like what your job is. Like what does Molly do?
Absolutely. So I am a social worker. And what that means is I can't officially diagnose you. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a medical license, but I am here to work with you through your journey and help you understand your emotions and understand your goals and help you find ways to achieve them. And it's really all about your journey. And I'm just a facilitator for that journey. So that's what I do.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate you explaining that.
Of course. I would love for you to tell me a little bit more about this new job. So you said that there have been a little bit of difficulties, but also I've heard that you might be doing very well at your job otherwise. I assume that if you've got a job as a principal, that's a very difficult position to achieve. I bet you were a fantastic teacher for years. I would love to hear more about your professional background.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I've been teaching, for like a long time now, and I finally got this promotion. It was the same week as my accident. So it's like a whole month ago, right? And I'm always the one that collaborates. I love collaborating. I love being with people. I love helping the other teachers kind of talk to each other because I don't know if you know this or not, but in schools, there's a lot of drama. And you know what? I'm pretty good at, cutting that out and, putting myself in the middle between people so things get done. And that's why I was good. And now, like, I got this new job, so it's more responsibility, and now I'm like a professional, mediator between all these different people. And I have angst coming into the school every morning. It doesn't help now. My commute used to take 30 minutes. The highway, my house to the highway to the school, 30-minute straight shot, easy, right? And now I'm so scared to go on the highway that I have to take surface streets, and it takes me an hour to get there and an hour to get back home. So I'm looking at 2 hours of commute time. It used to be one total. And I get to the school and I'm just angry. I can feel it as soon as I come in, and the people that I used to enjoy communicating with, they just, I don't know. I just can't relate to them. I don't know if that's the Paxil. I think it's Paxil. There's this new drug for like anxiety and depression that my doctor put me on, and I just I can't feel anything. And I don't know if it's the drug, if it's the accident. And I've just been hyper vigilant about, getting on the highway and thinking about this. I could have died. I could have died. It just goes through my head again and again. And it's just, how can I relate to these people at work when I just almost died a month ago, and they're just carrying on with their regular life, you know?
Wow, that sounds like there's a lot you've got to unpack, and it feels like there's a lot that's going on. It sounds like you're experiencing a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, maybe some anger, and you're not really sure where those emotions are coming from. And it's hard to say if it's the medication or if it's the events that you've experienced and the results of the trauma, or maybe even a little bit of both. And I would encourage you to speak to your doctor a little bit more about that as well, especially since there is medication involved. What I would like to know, I would like for you to imagine that I am a passenger in the car and you are getting on the highway. Can you tell me what I would see in that moment? What would you be experiencing when you were trying to drive in that scenario? Could you walk me through that?
To be perfectly honest with you, Molly, I don't even want to put myself in the visualized position of being in that car yet, if that makes sense, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Of course. I appreciate you setting that boundary. And like I said, it's your journey. And if you're not ready, then we can certainly avoid that conversation for now. We can address it again if and when you feel ready to do so.
I appreciate that. And what I will say is that's a really good question, because it's what I felt as soon as you asked that question was just very deep, tingling fear, right? So it's like the fight or flight. So even you just asking me to get into a car that's going on a freeway feels like fight or flight fear, and I will fight and do whatever I have to do to keep from getting on that car that's getting on a freeway. And even that thinking about that is there's a lot of fight to it. That makes sense.
It does. So when you say fight or flight, would you describe yourself as a fighter or a fleer or maybe a freezer?
Ooh, you know what? I think I'm all three.
All three. That's very interesting. I imagine it changes a little bit during the circumstance, or maybe it's a combination all at once.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would say now that I was more of a appeaser, before this incident, and maybe more of a fleer too. But now, maybe there's more resistance, and I mean, it's a not a physical fight, but it's a verbal fight when I go into the school in the morning, and I want to fight not to be there. I want to do whatever I have to do to get out of there, and I feel that same kind of fight or flight adrenal response when I go into school and when I come out from school, and that's kind of where that self-medication is coming from, I think, because it's a bottle of wine to yourself a night will really get you into a space where you really don't care and feel much. And that's kind of what I want to do when, I get out of those situations. My heart is racing. And that's just, that's kind of how I take the edge off. But, in those situations, I guess you would say I'm a fighter.
I could imagine that that would feel very confusing, and you must sort of feel like you're not yourself in a way because you have gone from being this person who is a communicator and a collaborator to now you feel like you're fighting with people all of the time. That must feel exhausting.
It does. It's very exhausting. And I would say there's an element of embarrassment too. It's kind of like what have I turned into? These are the qualities that I liked of myself, and the qualities that I find now are not positive ones.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. That was very brave, and I'm sure it wasn't easy. What would you say our goals are moving forward in the future? What would you like to work on with me?
One goal for me definitely would be to get back on the highway. I don't know if that's possible or not, but I want to be able to drive and live like a normal person again.
That's a great goal. Can I just say something? So I heard the word normal, right? I think that there's a lot of pressure to be a very specific type of person who lives a very specific type of way. And I'm sure that as a principal, you've got all of these parents, all of these teachers who are looking to you. And I imagine that along with your anxiety and your stress, there is that level of pressure. And I'm sure that that is a lot to be going through, but I don't want you to feel as though you are not somebody who is normal. Everybody has different circumstances that they go through and different challenges that they have to overcome. And just because you're going through a difficult time right now, that doesn't mean that you're not a normal person. You've still got a lot of strengths and a lot of great things going for you. Your fact that you're here means that you care about your job and you care about your students and your employees and you care about yourself. And that is fantastic. So that I really like to
I
focus on
appreciate
that
that.
mindset and just saying to yourself, I am still George. I am still normal. I'm still myself. I just had something bad happen to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you have any more questions for me today before we go?
No, Molly, it's been very informative. You went over my rights and you really kind of got to the point of why I'm coming in. So I appreciate that.
Well, I look forward to meeting with you next week. Like I said earlier, you can schedule with Georgina up front. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. It was very nice to meet you.
Thank you, Molly. You have a good day.
You as well.